In a grand hall shimmering with chandeliers, Princess Anne silenced Britain's elite with a revelation that no one expected: her retirement and the naming of Catherine as her royal successor. It was supposed to be just another opulent evening, a state banquet honoring diplomats, full of ceremonial pomp and polite applause. But that night, the 18th of June, 2025, the air inside Buckingham Palace shifted, thick with anticipation, though no one could have guessed just how much history was about to unfold. Anne, dressed in her understated navy gown, rose from her seat. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses, half-raised, froze in the hands of Britain's most powerful figures. All eyes turned to her as she stood tall, a figure of steel and grace. Her voice was steady, yet it carried a weight that pressed into the hearts of everyone listening. With quiet dignity, she declared the words that would echo far beyond these palace walls: her retirement from public duties. The announcement cut through the room like a blade, slicing the evening's formality with raw finality. For decades, Anne had been the monarchy's relentless workhorse, the dependable force behind countless engagements and causes. And yet here she was, calmly stepping away. But before the stunned silence could settle, she continued, and it was her next words that would truly shake the monarchy to its core. With a subtle nod to Catherine, seated nearby, she spoke. "The Princess of Wales has shown strength, grace, and an unwavering commitment to duty. I have no doubt she will carry this work forward with the same passion." The room erupted into applause, but beneath the polite smiles lay a current of disbelief and awe. Catherine, still recovering from a grueling battle with cancer, was now being thrust into the center of royal life, chosen to carry forward Anne's formidable legacy. The audience was left to grapple with questions they dared not yet voice. Why now? Why Catherine? And what would this mean for a monarchy already under scrutiny? As Anne took her seat, a rare flicker of emotion crossed her face. In that instant, it became clear: this was not just a retirement, but a turning point, a transfer of power that carried more significance than anyone present could yet fathom. But to understand the magnitude of that night, we must step back and uncover the woman behind this decision: Princess Anne. For over 50 years, she carried the monarchy on her shoulders unflappably, tirelessly, and fiercely independent. Princess Anne became the unspoken backbone of Britain's royal family, the quiet force who never demanded headlines, yet inevitably earned them through sheer determination. In a world that often prized spectacle, she became synonymous with substance. With thousands of engagements logged and hundreds of charities uplifted by her steadfast patronage, she outworked them all, not because she sought recognition, but because duty demanded nothing less. While others embraced luxury, Anne clung to practicality, favoring recycled outfits and blunt honesty over diamonds and deference. This simplicity became her armor, and her wit, sharp enough to silence critics, became her weapon. Anne's path through the palace was never simple, yet she carved it with grit and conviction. In a family dominated by kings, princes, and heirs, she claimed her own space, not by entitlement, but by proving she deserved it. As an Olympic equestrian, she didn't just ride. She competed and won respect far beyond royal circles. As her brother Charles's trusted confidant, she became his sounding board, quietly holding the monarchy together in moments of turmoil. And yet, even a life built on duty could not escape personal hardship. Her marriage to Mark Phillips crumbled under the public eye. Her injuries on horseback left her bruised and battered, and her critics never stopped whispering. But Anne always returned every time with the same indomitable resolve that defined her. Beneath her humor and brisk efficiency lay a sense of duty so profound it became the standard against which others were measured. Anne never craved the spotlight, yet it always found her because she refused to let the monarchy falter. For decades, she became its most reliable soldier, showing up where others faltered, carrying traditions others dared not question. She was not just dependable, she was relentless. And yet, as the years passed, even she could not ignore the truth looming on the horizon. The strongest pillars, too, must someday lay down their weight. Yet even the strongest pillars eventually decide it's time to pass the torch, and Anne's choice was as surprising as it was deliberate. Whispers had grown louder about Anne slowing down, but no one foresaw her complete departure. Speculation swirled when she missed the royal ascot in June 2025, sparking questions that lingered in the corridors of power and in the press alike. Was it merely exhaustion? Was her iron will finally bending? But those who thought Anne was simply worn down misunderstood her entirely. Behind closed doors, she had been quietly engineering her exit for months, orchestrating the kind of seamless transition only she could plan. She met privately with Charles, conferring over strategy late into the night. She spoke at length with Catherine, probing her readiness and guiding her with the same firmness she had shown all her life. Her decision was not born of fatigue but of faith that the next generation could shoulder what she no longer needed to carry. Where others saw fragility in Catherine's recent illness, Anne saw steel. She saw in her the same unshakable resilience, the same quiet strength, the same unwavering duty that had defined Anne herself. For Anne, this wasn't just retirement. It was a calculated handover to someone she believed could not only preserve her legacy, but evolve it. The timing, the preparation, the trust all came together that fateful night at the banquet, when Anne placed her confidence where few expected. And in Catherine's journey, marked by illness, struggle, and remarkable recovery, Anne found her perfect successor. From the shadows of cancer to the blinding spotlight of destiny, Catherine's journey captivated the world. What began in whispers in early 2024 soon erupted into a devastating truth. The Princess of Wales was battling cancer. The diagnosis reverberated far beyond palace walls, striking at the heart of the monarchy and plunging the public into a collective state of shock. At that moment, everything about her future and the royal family's future hung in the balance. For months, Catherine disappeared from the public eye, retreating into private corridors to endure the unimaginable. While the cameras were shut out, she faced grueling rounds of chemotherapy, days of weakness, nights of fear. Yet beneath it all, something was hardening inside her, an unspoken resolve that this chapter would not end in defeat. By early 2025, after months of silence and speculation, Catherine emerged back into the light with quiet determination. She announced she was in remission, standing before a world that now saw her through new eyes. But it was never just about recovery, it was about transformation. In those long months of illness, she had confronted her mortality and asked herself hard questions about her role in the monarchy. Would she simply resume where she left off, or would she redefine what it meant to serve? The answer became clear to her even before her body healed. She would return not just to resume duties, but to lead them in her own way, deliberately, purposefully, and with a depth that only someone who had faced the edge could bring. Every appearance she made thereafter carried weight. Her return to the balcony at Trooping the Colour drew not just applause, but tears. Her presence at the Order of the Garter felt less like protocol and more like triumph. People no longer saw just a princess fulfilling obligations. They saw a survivor reshaping the very meaning of royal duty. Each gesture seemed more intentional, each smile more profound. In her silence, she had gained wisdom. In her suffering, she had gained authority. Public admiration for her resilience skyrocketed. What she endured in private became her strength in public. She was no longer simply part of the monarchy. She was its beating heart, embodying its humanity and hope in a way few ever had. Her journey made her relatable to ordinary people in a way even her titles never could. Every step she took after her return seemed to whisper a promise to those watching. No matter how deep the darkness, you can rise. But Catherine's rise wasn't just about overcoming illness. It was about a bond that had quietly been growing with Anne all along. In the quiet corners of Gatcombe Park, two women shaped the future of the monarchy away from prying eyes. It was there, beyond the palace gates and cameras, that Princess Anne and Catherine met privately, time and again, to prepare for what neither could yet name aloud but both knew was coming. These were not casual conversations, nor were they entirely formal. They were something in between raw, honest, and brimming with the weight of a crown that only they could understand. Over months, Catherine would arrive at Anne's estate, her face still pale from treatment, her resolve yet untested. And Anne, as she always had, greeted her with a steely calm and a knowing look that said, "This is where the real work begins." The conversations unfolded slowly but deliberately. They spoke of duty. Yes, the kind of duty that demanded sacrifice even when no one was watching. They spoke of how to remain unshaken under scrutiny, how to balance motherhood with obligations that never waited. Anne, shaped by decades of service, shared lessons Catherine could never have learned from books or advisors. She warned her that public life was a marathon with no finish line, and that moments of exhaustion would be met not with sympathy, but with expectation. She told her how to handle the weight of a nation's hope without letting it crush her family or herself. For Catherine, these visits became more than counsel. They became a lifeline, During her cancer recovery, when the walls of her world felt narrow and uncertain, Anne's presence gave her focus and faith. In Anne, she saw a mirror of the woman she hoped to become, resilient, relentless, unflinching in her purpose. And in Catherine, Anne saw her own legacy carried forward in younger, softer hands, yet hands she trusted to hold firm when tested. The trust between them deepened with every meeting, weaving a quiet bond that neither spoke of publicly, yet everyone who watched them could sense. That connection became increasingly visible. At the Order of the Garter, the two were seen exchanging warm words, their body language easy and natural, the kind of familiarity that could not be staged. Observers noted the unspoken understanding in their glances, the subtle choreography of two women aligned in mission. It became clear to those paying attention that this was more than mentorship. It was a passing of the torch long before the world knew it. That mentorship bore fruit the night of the banquet, but what awaited Catherine beyond that evening was nothing short of monumental. Taking over Anne's duties wasn't just a promotion, it was a seismic shift in royal history. With a single announcement, Catherine stepped into a role so vast and so heavy, it had humbled even Anne, the monarchy's fiercest stalwart. The weight of more than 300 patronages now rested squarely on her shoulders, each one a thread in the intricate fabric of Britain's public life. From agricultural charities to children's hospitals, equestrian programs to international aid, Catherine found herself inheriting not just a list of responsibilities, but a legacy built over half a century. Yet even in the face of this daunting inheritance, she moved forward without hesitation, proving that the quiet resolve forged in her darkest hours had prepared her for this exact moment. Her first major appearance in this new role came at the Royal Highland Show in Edinburgh, an event Anne had championed for decades. All eyes were fixed on her as she arrived, poised yet unmistakably herself, radiating both authority and approachability. In that single moment, Catherine announced her intentions without uttering a word. She was not there to replicate Anne's presence, she was there to reimagine it. Where Anne brought brisk precision and no-nonsense dedication, Catherine infused her interactions with warmth, taking time to speak with families and listen to their stories, forging connections that felt deeply personal. Her presence was not simply ceremonial, it was intentional. What set her apart was not her ability to fill Anne's shoes, but her decision to walk her own path alongside Anne's enduring shadow. She skillfully wove her existing causes, mental health advocacy, early childhood development, and now cancer awareness into Anne's long-standing commitments. Each patronage she took over became a canvas for her vision, painted with both respect for tradition and an eagerness to modernize. At children's hospices, she lingered to comfort grieving families. At agricultural events, she spoke candidly about sustainability and rural mental health. Her advocacy no longer felt like duty, it felt like destiny. And so, the public began to understand what Anne had seen all along, that Catherine was never meant to be a mere stand-in or successor. She was something else entirely. An evolution of Anne's ethos, a bridge between what was and what could be. Her ability to balance Anne's efficiency with her own empathy created something rare, something that resonated across generations. She did not diminish Anne's work, she amplified it. And in doing so, she began to redefine what royal service could mean in the 21st century. But Catherine's new prominence didn't just change her, it reshaped the dynamics of the entire royal family. Anne's retirement didn't just elevate Catherine, it sent ripples through Buckingham Palace, shaking old dynamics to their core. The hierarchy that once seemed immovable began to shift overnight. Catherine's rise didn't merely fill a gap, it redefined relationships, forcing every member of the family to confront what her prominence meant for their own place in the royal order. William, who had always been protective of his wife, yet careful to keep her in the traditional role of consort, found himself leaning on her more than ever. Their partnership, once quiet and complementary, grew sharper and more visible. He began deferring to her judgment in public settings, their unity now serving as the monarchy's most powerful statement of stability. In her, William found not just support but a formidable equal, someone whose resilience matched his ambition and whose warmth softened his edges. Charles, too, was transformed by her ascent. Already battling his own health struggles, he began to depend on Catherine in ways that surprised even his closest advisors. Where he had once seen her as his son's companion, he now looked to her as an essential ally, a woman capable of carrying a portion of the burden he could no longer shoulder alone. Their shared experience with illness deepened their bond, and behind the scenes, He confided in her more than many suspected, trusting her instincts as he had trusted Anne's, but the most unexpected ripple of all came from the younger royals, who began to stir with newfound purpose. Princess Beatrice, long relegated to the margins, stepped forward, clearly inspired by Catherine's example. She took on more engagements with a determination that hinted at her own desire to contribute meaningfully. Others in the family, watching Catherine navigate the impossible balancing relentless duty with genuine humanity, began to reassess their own roles, some quietly stepping up, others retreating under the weight of comparison. Catherine became both a stabilizer and a symbol of progress, embodying the monarchy's ability to honor its traditions while nudging them toward relevance. Yet this balance came at a cost. Internal pressures mounted as she faced competing expectations to preserve the stoic dignity of her predecessors, while also opening the monarchy to a world that increasingly demanded authenticity and compassion. Every decision she made carried double the weight, every word analyzed for its ability to bridge two eras. But while the family adapted to new roles, the public was watching closely, ready to judge if Catherine could truly fill Anne's shoes. With every smile and every stumble, the public weighed in. Could Catherine carry the monarchy into a new era? The night Anne passed her torch, the reaction was immediate and deafening. Social media platforms lit up like wildfire, filled with admiration and doubt in equal measure. Praise for her grace and courage intertwined with murmurs of skepticism about whether she could withstand the relentless grind that Anne had endured without faltering. Every word Catherine spoke, every gesture she made, was dissected and magnified until it felt less like a celebration and more like a test. And yet, through the din of commentary, she stood resolute, refusing to let either applause or criticism dictate her course. What captivated people most was the raw humanity Catherine carried into her role. Her cancer journey had stripped away the veneer of untouchable royalty and revealed a woman not just surviving, but fighting and prevailing. In her struggle, millions saw themselves reflected, their own fears and battles mirrored in her quiet determination. She became more than a princess to them. She became proof that resilience and vulnerability could coexist in the same breath. This authenticity drew the public closer to her than protocol ever could, endearing her to many in ways the monarchy had rarely achieved before. Yet her growing warmth and accessibility divided opinion. Traditionalists questioned whether she had the stamina or steel that Anne had displayed for decades. They doubted if Catherine's softer edges could withstand the institution's harsh realities, whispering that sentiment had no place in duty. Younger generations, on the other hand, rallied behind her, praising her as a breath of fresh air in a world long dominated by rigidity and reserve. She became their symbol of a monarchy that could evolve without collapsing. Her choices at home only sharpened this divide. Prioritizing her family, often rescheduling or even skipping events to be with her children, drew admiration from those who valued her humanity. To others, it was a dangerous deviation from the unyielding work ethic Anne had embodied. Catherine navigated this tension with deliberate care, refusing to be pushed fully into either mold, walking her own path despite the pressure. In her, people began to see the monarchy's past and its uncertain future balanced on a single pair of shoulders. She was no longer just a figurehead to observe, but a bridge they were asked to cross, connecting the traditions they remembered with the changes they feared yet needed. But Catherine isn't just enduring scrutiny. She's already crafting her vision for the monarchy of tomorrow. Torch in hand, Catherine stands at the threshold of history, ready to lead, ready to redefine what it means to serve. Inheriting Anne's mantle was never meant to be a quiet continuation. From the moment she accepted the weight of those duties, Catherine made it clear that she intended to build something bolder, something deeper. A monarchy that didn't just stand above its people, but stood among them. Her vision began taking shape in the months that followed the banquet. She laid plans to expand the mental health initiatives she had championed for years, intertwining them with Anne's beloved rural causes to reach forgotten corners of the country. Early childhood development, already her hallmark, would now be coupled with programs aimed at lifting entire communities out of silence and despair. Whispers within the palace spoke of a rumored project to improve rural healthcare, a bold and urgent blend of her and Anne's passions. This initiative promised to address the very issues Anne had tirelessly advocated for, but through Catherine's own lens, more personal, more accessible, and more unflinchingly human. Every meeting she attended, every conversation she had with advisors, pointed back to one unyielding truth. This would be her legacy, not merely a continuation of someone else's. Even as her public responsibilities grew, she refused to relinquish the role she cherished most, that of a mother, balancing school runs with state banquets, bedtime stories with speeches that shook the House of Lords. She became a living testament to what it means to embody both strength and humanity. It was this duality that made it impossible to ignore the woman who bore her own scars while carrying the monarchy's future with quiet ferocity. In her, many saw the monarchy's best, and perhaps last hope, to remain relevant in a world that no longer bowed instinctively to tradition. Catherine stood as more than continuity. She was evolution. She listened when others lectured. She adapted when others resisted. And because of that, she became not only the bridge between past and future, but the architect of something entirely new, a monarchy that dares to reflect the people it serves. As Catherine steps fully into Anne's shoes, she doesn't just inherit a role, she inherits a responsibility to ignite a new path for the monarchy. And the world watches, breath held, waiting to see how brightly she lets that torch burn. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.